Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Around this time, 6 years ago, I moved to Scotland for the first time. However, as I'm of Scottish descent, I've been coming to Scotland since I was born, to visit family or for the summer holidays, Easter or Christmas. By the way, last month I published a video of me doing the Ancestry DNA test. I'll link it here in case you missed it. When I was a child and we came to Scotland, we would basically never go to Glasgow. We mostly stayed in the area where my great-grandma lived and usually do a day trip to Loch Lomond. However, during my teenage years, we started going to the city at least once, just for lunch and shopping, but we always stayed in the city centre. The tradition was shopping in Buchanan and Argyle Street and lunch at the Willow Tea Rooms, that I still love very much, and I highly recommend, in particular for their afternoon tea. I must confess, as a teenager and in my early 20s, I used to say that I didn't really like Glasgow and that I considered Edinburgh way more beautiful. But that was just because I didn't know anything about Glasgow. I had not seen or visited anything. And of course, Glasgow Central and its surroundings don't leave you in awe for their beauty. But then, when I was 23, I moved to Scotland and finally started exploring Glasgow, especially as I was doing my master's degree at Strathclyde Uni, so I had to commute to the city every day. I really changed my mind. All you have to do is walk around aimlessly, venture away from the city centre and take the subway. It's the easiest subway I've ever taken. It goes around in a circle, so you can't really get lost. I did once, but this is a different story. Of course, Edinburgh is incredible, conventionally beautiful. The architecture of the buildings in the old town is stunning. Portobello, Edinburgh's seaside, is also stunning. You don't have to look for beauty in Edinburgh, it's already there. In the case of Glasgow, you might have to dig a bit deeper. But Glasgow is such a vibrant, exciting city with some of the friendliest, kindest, and funniest people I've ever met in my life, and so many interesting things to do. Theatre, cinema, courses, restaurants that offer food from every part of the world, concerts. There's so many incredible concerts. And the best artists in the world will almost always have a date in Glasgow. In less than 3 years, I saw Harry Styles, Coldplay, The Cure, Lewis Capaldi, Elton John, Troye Sivan, Glasgow, Blink 182, and that's it for the moment. Having grown up in a village with 600 inhabitants, this is pretty much the dream. But enough talking. It's time to show you my favorite places in Glasgow, what I wouldn't miss if I were to visit for a weekend, long or short, or where I would go for food and drinks, which is a fundamental part of traveling, in my opinion. Again, I've been here for years and made friends who brought me to cool, quirky places, and now I'm going to share all that precious knowledge with you from actual Glaswegians or other Scots living not too far from the city. So enjoy. By the way, if you notice the weather is slightly different in the clips, that's just because I've been filming this video over the course of 5 months. So, let's say we've just arrived in Glasgow by train, either at Glasgow Central or Queen Street. Even if the city centre is not my favourite part of Glasgow, I would certainly go see Buchanan Street anyway, where you will find plenty of touristy souvenir and gift shops, as well as the main chains, such as Nike, Zara, New Look, The North Face, and so on, and cafes and restaurants as well, both chains and not. As previously mentioned, I would go to the Willow Tea Rooms for lunch or afternoon tea. Puoi smetterla di miagolare? There's two Willow Tea Rooms in Glasgow, one in Buchanan Street and one in Sauchiehall Street. I like the Buchanan Street one better. Another place I'd recommend for lunch is Paesano Pizza. The best pizza I've ever had in Glasgow is theirs. Again, there's two Paesanos in Glasgow, one in the city centre and one in the West End, but my favourite is the city centre one. I personally wouldn't look for pizza when on holiday or traveling abroad, but when I'm craving it, Paesano's is my favorite place to go. Another main street in the city centre is Sauchiehall Street. I must admit I don't feel too much love for Sauchiehall Street. I think Buchanan Street is nicer and cleaner and tidier too, usually. However, they've just renovated it. Sauchiehall Street has more chains towards the city centre, but features more interesting cafes, restaurants and bars if you keep walking towards the West End. One of the streets that cross it is Rose Street, where you can find my favourite cinema and authentic landmark of Glasgow, the Glasgow Film Theatre. An Italian friend of mine who's been living in Glasgow for years brought me there for the first time, and I'll be forever grateful to her for this. The GFT is an independent cinema and it occupies a purpose-built cinema building. It first opened in 1939 and is a protected building. I'm going through changes. I'm turning the pages of my life. I don't know what the... Another main street of the city centre is Argyle Street. Again, not a huge fan. Buchanan is still my favourite. And one of the exits from Glasgow Central is onto Argyle Street. Also close to Central Station, you've got the famous Four Corners, which I would avoid at night. So called because there's a fast food chain on every corner. I only remember McDonald's though, I can't remember the other three. I believe Argyle Street also gets more interesting when walking towards the West End. For instance, a Mediterranean restaurant I really like on Argyle Street is Gloriosa. Again, a friend of mine brought me, so I'm not taking credit for it. The same friend who knows all the quirky places also brought me to Kudos, also on Argyle Street. We went there last Saturday for brunch and the food was incredible. I can't wait to go back to try something different as the menu was so interesting and picking just one option was really hard. But we'll go to the West End later. I'd like to start from the East End first. Leaving Argyle Street behind, you'll get to Trongate. I don't know what the age is. I start sounding outrageous in your eyes. Sit the passing of the sea. Another lovely place to have brunch in this area is Cafe Outlier. Reason and what you left behind. Searching for the answers. Proceeding towards Gallowgate, you'll find iconic Barrowland. Once again, I'm realizing I never found out about any of these places I'm recommending myself. I was brought to the Barrowland Ballroom by friends last July during Glasgow Pride. We had so much fun. There was a concert inside and various artists performed, such as Irish duo Jedward, who represented Ireland at the Eurovision in 2011. Barrowland is one of Scotland's most beloved concert venues. It features a barrel-shaped ceiling, acoustic tiles, and its original sprung dance floor. I can vouch that it's great to dance on. The original building was opened in 1934 in this mercantile area of Glasgow by Maggie McIver, also known as the Barras Queen, so called because she was also the founder of the Barras, a street market turned permanent market when roofs were added to protect the stalls from bad weather. The ballroom was built because McIver used to host a Christmas party for her market workers and their families, but one year the usual hall she hired was unavailable. Therefore, the Barras Queen decided to build her own. The famous Barrowland opened on Christmas Eve, 1934. Unfortunately, the building was destroyed by a fire in 1958, but thankfully it was completely rebuilt and reopened on Christmas Eve 1960. Again, I found out about the Barras Market last July, also the same day as Glasgow Pride, and we went there for lunch before the Barrowland Ballroom, and it was so busy and buzzing and lively, but the atmosphere last week was very different. Everything seems to be closed. I just found out Barras Market is only open on Saturday and Sunday from 10 until 4 p.m. That's why it looked like a set of a movie. I just know. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous day. It's the 1st of April and there's 17 degrees. I've been looking forward to this the whole winter. We really deserve this weather because the winter was so long and cold and dark. After the East End, I walked to the city centre and got the subway from Buchanan Street to the West End. On my way, I walked past another landmark of Glasgow, the equestrian statue of the Duke of Wellington, in front of the Gallery of Modern Art, with its iconic traffic cone on its head. You must know that the statue has had a traffic cone on its head continuously for around 40 years. Anytime the council or the police removed it, it was always replaced within a few days anonymously as a prank. Artist Banksy said it's his favorite work of art in the UK, and because of this, he decided to hold his exhibition at the Goma for the first time in 14 years, back in 2023. I still remember seeing the limited edition European flag traffic cone one day on my way to uni in January 2020 for Brexit Day. Once arrived in the West End, I had lunch in Urban West, sitting outside and enjoying every single ray of sunshine. It was a glorious day and Glasgow got very busy very quickly, especially the parks, and the excitement for the beginning of spring was palpable. Imagine having a flat here. The houses are so pretty. After lunch, I even treated myself to churros. I kind of regret it as I had to stand waiting for 20 minutes, but in the end, for churros, it was worth it. Now I'm going to get churros in my favorite place. They are delicious with Nutella. I usually like savory food better, but churros are something else. The best place to have them in the West End is called Loop and Scoop, and that's where we're going. I had them on a bench at the Botanic Gardens. iconic cobbled street of the West End is Ashton Lane, which features some favorite places of mine. Vodka Wodka and its beer garden for drinks. Brel for dinner, also with a lovely beer garden. Ramen Dayo for ramen. And I've not been to the Grosvenor cinema yet, but I've been wanting to go since forever, so I should probably just book it. To be fair, this area, called Hillhead, I discovered myself back in 2019. From Ashton Lane, I would then walk to stunning Glasgow Uni and stroll around there, and then walk down the steps to equally beautiful Kelvingrove Park.
Thoughts get so wicked. I've been making friends with my nightmares to fall asleep. Give me peace. Bring
On my way back to the city centre, I've been walking a lot the past week. I walked past yet another favourite restaurant of mine, Sylvan, a vegetarian restaurant near Charing Cross. The food is amazing, the combinations are so interesting and unexpected, the atmosphere is great, and the staff is so lovely. You usually order 3 dishes each, they don't really do mains. With all the cafe, bar and restaurant recommendations I gave you, you'd probably have to move to Glasgow for good, more than having a weekend. But at least you can't say you don't know where to go for food and drinks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!